Kelsey, are you hearing me now?
I am now.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was talking, but I don't know if anyone could hear me. So, hi everyone. This is Jennifer Hill. I just wanted to welcome you all to tonight's WebEx. Many of you have worked with me in the past, but if you haven't, I currently now, you might have recently got a memo about some ADHA staff changes. So I just wanted to let you know that I am still there, and I am the new title might change. So, but right now is called Co-Director of Content and Community. That name might change, but essentially still in membership and also incorporating a lot of communication and marketing activities. So if you got that memo, that it had a list of some of the changes and who you can contact, but just wanted to let you know about my title change. But I'll still be your main point of contact for all state relations and everything that I've been working with you all on for a number of years. So that was first. And secondly, I wanted to introduce all of you, if you haven't talked with her or met her yet, I wanted to introduce to you Kelsey Turner. And she is relatively new to ADHA. She came to our team in July of this year, and then she kind of just started in the office right when I was leaving for maternity leave. So we're finally back together, working together since she started. So Kelsey actually moved to Chicago from Texas and from Austin. And there she was working for an alumni association of the University of Texas. And she was responsible for a lot of the student membership programs, among some other initiatives. And Kelsey earned her bachelor's degree in public relations from the University of Texas at Austin, and her master's degree in higher education administration from Vanderbilt University. So she has a lot of great experience working with students, and her role at ADHA is kind of multi-tiered. She's helping with some general membership activities, like right now she's working on a lot of marketing and communication activities for our active and regular categories of members, but she's also really leading the charge of student membership, renewals for students, transition, and then also what you'll hear a little bit more tonight is the new professionals group. So we're really excited about a lot of the initiatives that that group is working on, and especially for tonight's webinar, so we can bring you some real life examples, and we're excited to share that with you. So I'll pass this over to Kelsey so she can tell you a little bit about how tonight's going to go.
Thanks, Jennifer, and it's nice to meet all of you guys. So like Jennifer said, one of the big things I work on at ADHA is the new professionals program, and so tonight we're actually joined by 3 of the 6 members of the new professional advisory group. And this group was put together in coordination with our sponsor, Arm & Hammer, to really tap into this target group and what they need and what resources they need to really make ADHA relevant to them. So before I turn it over to Jean, who will kick things off for us, I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items. We will be taking questions at the end. If you want to submit those questions throughout the presentation, you can do that through the Q&A box, which is in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. This is also being recorded, so you can look back on this on our website, as well as the other 2 webinars as part of this ADHA Volunteer Leadership Series. So we do have Jean, Jessica, and AJ with us tonight. I'm going to let them talk about their experiences, and so now I'm going to turn it over to Jean.
All right, thank you, Kelsey. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'd like to thank the ADHA for having me here tonight. It's an honor to serve as one of the panelists. I want to kind of apologize ahead of time. I'm kind of battling a cold, so if I do go into a coughing fit, I do apologize. But for those of you who do not know me, my name is Jean Garlock. I am a registered dental hygienist. I am fairly new to the field of dental hygiene. I graduated in May of this year with an Associate in Science degree in Dental Hygiene from Erie Community College, which is just outside of Buffalo, New York. And I am currently working clinically as a full-time dental hygienist in private practice just outside of Buffalo, New York. I work for a small practice. But as much as I love being a registered dental hygienist and a professional member of the ADHA, I kind of want to start off the presentation tonight with my experience as a student member with the ADHA, because I would not be where I am today, both as a professional member and a registered dental hygienist, if it wasn't for my involvement with the ADHA as a student. So my journey with ADHA began about 2 years ago. It was in 2014. I was finishing up my first semester of dental hygiene school. I was studying for finals when one of my college instructors informed me and my fellow students of the district student delegate opportunity. I remember reading this, and I instantly knew that this is something that I wanted to be a part of. I had done similar things throughout my life, so I was very excited that the ADHA even offered something like this for students. I applied. I submitted an essay to our District 2 trustee at the time. Her name was Jacqueline Gleber, and I was so honored to have been chosen to serve as the District 2 student delegate. And on top of granting me an all-expense-paid trip to the District 2 workshop in Freehold, New Jersey, and CLL in Nashville, Tennessee, it gave me the chance to represent students from across the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania region. So that was really huge and such an honor for me to have that chance as a student. So on top of an all-expense-paid trip to attend a district workshop and CLL, I gained so many things from this experience, and there's just some key things that I wanted to highlight on. First and foremost, I think the most important thing that I gained was just networking and mentorship opportunities with other student professional members. I have worked alongside so many incredible and talented registered dental hygienists from all across the country, so to have this experience and to have gained friendships and mentorships with them has been really, really huge. My greatest memory of CLL was the ability to participate in all 3 House of Delegate meetings and really truly be a voice for other student members from all across the country. Another thing I thought was really important was the opportunity to attend and be actively involved with both a district workshop and National Dental Hygiene Convention. And I remember my teacher saying that, you know, CLL is like the Super Bowl of dental hygiene conventions. And boy, was she right. And above all, it's just a spark passion for the profession of dental hygiene, our professional organization. When I left the District 2 workshop and also CLL, I remember leaving feeling just so inspired and wanting to give back to this incredible profession of ours and professional organization in any which way that I can. And I've been able to continue to do that. I've been running with that on my journey with the ADHA and as a registered dental hygienist. So many doors have opened. When I became the student delegate, I kind of thought it was only going to be just kind of a one-year thing. But my journey has really continued and still continues to this day. And because I was the district student delegate, it's provided me with many opportunities that have really transitioned into my professional membership with the ADHA and my role as an RDH. Some of those things include being a part of the new professional advisory group, working with 5 other incredible, talented women from across the United States, being one of only a few students chosen to be part of Access Magazine's editorial advisory group, and then also being more involved in knowing how to get involved with my local component, which is here in Buffalo, New York, and our state organization, which is here, again, in New York, being from New York. So a couple of things that I learned not only as a student delegate, but as a student that I think it's important to share with all of you all is just some issues that I came across. First and foremost is that students from all over the country felt a lack of connection and support from our professional organization. This is so vital because in order for students to want to transition their membership once they graduate and to feel like they have the support when they're getting ready to become, you know, transitioning from a student to a professional and becoming a registered dental hygienist, is that, you know, feeling connected to our professional organization and feeling like they have that support is so vital. A lot of students have no idea the impact that ADHA has on our profession, nor did they know about the opportunities that were available to them as students. During the student roundtable discussion at CLL, I spoke with students from all across the country, and a lot of them had no idea about all of the resources and opportunities that were available to them. They didn't know about the district student delegate opportunity. They didn't know about the scholarships. They really didn't know that ADHA was there for them as students as well. So that's something that I think we need to bridge the gap, is just really working on ways to let students know that we are there for them and that there are these wonderful tools that are available to them to help them succeed. From a student perspective, something I wanted to highlight is that most of my graduating class felt that the price for membership was too high and that they would not be transitioning their membership after graduation because of this. And I think the key thing to take away with this here is that really letting students know the value of their membership, that what they're getting, their membership dollars at work, but really letting them know that it's just not paying a membership, that there's so many things that you get from being a member of the ADHA and all of the things that ADHA is doing to protect our profession. And one other thing is that a couple of the students that I graduated with said that they would transition their membership in a couple of years after they are done paying on their student loans. But I don't know about you. I know it's going to take me a lot longer than a couple of years, unfortunately, to pay off my student loans. So I think just checking in and reaching out to those students who are maybe questioning whether or not they're going to transition their membership is key. This is something that I'm very, very passionate about because I have been so thankful and so grateful for the mentors that have been in my life since I started my journey with the ADHA. I don't think that I would be where I am today, not only as a professional member, but as a registered dental hygienist, if it wasn't for the constant support and mentorship that I have received from so many people. So this is something that I'm very passionate about. Is just how important it is to mentor student members. We need to know that students are the future of our profession and professional organization, and that investing in and mentoring them so that they have all the tools necessary enables them to become strong registered dental hygienists and professional members. In return, this ensures that students feel connected to the ADHA and that they have the support that they need. And without this, the success of our profession and professional organization is truly at stake. So seeing as a bunch of you are state leaders, I just wanted to kind of give some advice and some things that I have learned along the way that I think is important to share with you all. First and foremost is to always remember to reach out not only to professional members, but student members as well. We're kind of all in this together. We're one big happy family, and we need to make sure that we're reaching out to all members, not just professional members. We need to know and keep in mind that students and new professionals are a valuable asset to our professional organization and profession. And another thing, being from the state of New York, that I thought is great, New York is really working hard to create opportunities for students to be actively involved at a local, state, and district level. One of the things that New York offered, was the first time that they ever did this, was they gave students the chance to submit an essay, so it's kind of like a mini district student delegate opportunity. And one lucky student was chosen, and this gave that student the opportunity to travel, all expense paid, to our state conference and also be involved with all of the House of Delegates meetings. Creating mentorship programs to engage seasoned professional members and hygienists with student new professional members, I think, is another good idea. And then, above all else, just be open-minded and welcoming to ideas from student members and new professional members, and know that change, although it can be hard, is a very good and valuable asset to our organization and profession. And I wanted to end my presentation tonight with a final thought of a quote that I read that I really thought kind of sums up just my part of my presentation, and it is that emerging leaders need mentors to guide them, but they also need a network of peers to reassure them that they are not on the path alone. And at this time, I will turn it over to Jessica.
All right, thank you, Jean. So, hi everybody. I know I see a couple of familiar names on the list of people that are here, But for those of you that don't know who I am, I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. So my name is Jessica Sudbeck, and I graduated with my bachelor's in dental hygiene in Virginia. And shortly after, I completed my master's in Virginia as well in dental hygiene. And then just very recently in August, I accepted a full-time teaching position here in Iowa. So that's what brought me here to Iowa. So I'm currently a full-time didactic and clinical instructor at Hawkeye Community College in Waterloo, Iowa. So a little bit about my background for my roles with the American Dental Hygienists Association. So like Jean, my journey started all the way back to when I was a student, when I was alternate student delegate in 2013 for District 3 when I lived in Virginia. This is back when they did the alternate student delegates as well as the student delegates. And I full-heartedly agree with everything that Jean said about her experience as a student delegate, and my part of the presentation is going to be more focusing on my years after I was a student in my first couple of years as a new professional. But I do think that that student delegate experience is what first lit that fire of passion in me, and it's what brought me to where I'm at here and where I gained most of my role models and mentors that I still look up to this day and ask for advice to this day. And I think my experience also helped me bring back that excitement to my classmates and get some of my classmates excited about being involved. And I just truly think that that student level is where everything started for me. Shortly after that, when I graduated from my bachelor's in dental hygiene, I was approached by my state to be recording secretary at the state level. They needed somebody and they believed in me, so they approached me right after graduation, and I was hesitant, but I decided to accept that role, and I did recording secretary for a few years. Shortly after that, I was also approached by my local component because they were in need of a president-elect. So I did a year as president-elect for my local component, and then shortly after that, I did my year of presidency. With all of these roles, I also did a few committees for the state and local level as well. So I served as website administrator for my state for Virginia at the time. I served on the membership services committee, sometimes working on a couple initiatives for gaining new members, because we're all excited about getting new members all the time. I served on advisory boards for local colleges because I was the local president for my component, where we started some mentoring programs because I saw where it was important to get those students involved early on, as Jean mentioned. And then finally, I finished up in Virginia as alternate delegate to this past annual session in Pittsburgh before I moved to Iowa in August. And since I've been in Iowa, I've just barely begun to get my toes wet in getting involved here. With the new job and the move, I think it's been a little difficult for me to get involved, but luckily, my boss is Emily Bogey, who I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with because she's very involved in the association. So she's been helping me get involved here, where I'm currently serving on the legislative committee, and I am the website and Facebook administrator here in Iowa as well, since I was a little familiar with that from Virginia. So I'm just getting started here, and through all these experiences at the state and local level, I've also been very fortunate to have a lot of opportunities at the national level as well. So this one right here, the New Professional Advisory Group, is one that I'm very proud of, serving with these other 5 girls and really focusing in on the new professionals and how to get them engaged like we are. And I think it's been a very rewarding program, and I think we've had a lot of successes, such as this webinar series. I was also lucky enough to do a graduate student learning experience at headquarters in Chicago last summer as part of my master's degree program, where I learned even more about ADHA and all that they do for us. And then very recently, last month, I was lucky enough to attend Unleashing Your Potential, the leadership workshop that they host in headquarters every year. So with all of that background in the roles and my involvement in ADHA, I kind of wanted to go over how I felt when I first started out. So how I felt, my experiences with all of this. And these were some of the thoughts that I had when I first took on my roles, especially as recording secretary right out of school. So I was very overwhelmed when I first took over as recording secretary. I had a sense of being thrown into the role without any guidance for that specific role. And the reason I say specific role is because I did have a lot of mentors, and I had a lot of people rooting for me and a lot of people who were there for me and encouraging. but they didn't necessarily know what my role entailed. So it was sometimes a little frustrating for me to not know everything that I was supposed to be doing when I was supposed to be doing it. And you know, Virginia's great that they have a scopes manual that kind of outlines what everybody does, but at the same time, as a new professional and new member to an executive board, sometimes scopes manuals can be a little overwhelming. And so that's definitely how I felt when I first started out. I also felt as a new member for the executive board that though many of them did want me there and were very encouraging and invited me to be involved, I did feel that there were a couple of people in the room who did not want to hear from me, as I was just a new hygienist, or excuse me, I was a new hygienist or a new professional to the executive board. So I felt that at times too. So with all of these feelings, there was a few questions that ran through my mind when I first started out. Was I right for the role that I was in? Was I right for taking on the new roles? Was I ready for the position that I was in, or ready for all the positions that I was taking on? Because I wasn't really sure what I was doing at times, I didn't know that I was doing the right things, or if it was the right thing for me to be doing at the state or the component level. I constantly asked if my voice would be heard because I was scared to speak up. I wasn't sure that anybody wanted me to speak up. I wasn't sure that my opinion mattered, or even if I knew what I was talking about. You know, I would sit in on some of these meetings and just trying to be learning about what was going on at my component level or my state level or the national level, and I didn't really have a good grasp of everything, so sometimes I was scared to speak up because I wasn't sure if I knew what I was talking about. So this is where my advice comes in based on the experiences and the feelings that I had taking on these roles right out of school and as a new professional. So while I definitely had a lot of mentors and people that encouraged me throughout my journey as a new professional, I think it would have been very helpful to have a mentor for my specific role. So in my case, the woman that I took over for had just had a baby and she moved recently, so it wasn't, you know, an option for me to have somebody that I could shadow or anything like that. But I do think if you have that option, when you have a new person on your board, letting them have somebody that they can shadow and see how the role works before they take over that role, I think that that would be really essential for your new leaders. I also think training would be a great idea. So mainly training on how the entire board works. So I remember when I first started out being involved at the state level, I didn't know what all the roles did. I didn't know what the alternate Speaker of the House's role was. I didn't know who was voting members and not voting members. And again, all of this is in the scopes manual, but handing somebody a manual with that many pages can be very overwhelming. So, you know, just kind of sitting down with that new leader or that new professional and explaining, this is the members of the board, these are the ones that vote, here's how their roles work, and here's how your role fits into that. This is where your job is important and what you do, how this makes the whole process work. And then I also think welcoming new ideas. So a lot of times we're too scared to speak up, and we may not think that our voice is something that everybody wants to hear, but if you're at a board meeting and you see that new state leader or you see that new component leader, new professional, just ask them their thoughts on it, ask them their opinions, invite them to join the conversation, because you asking them their opinion, they might have something great for you to hear and they were just too scared to speak up at that time. So include them in the conversation even if they're not including themselves, so that you can hear what they have to say for any topics that you guys are talking about. And then another advice or piece of advice that I wanted to give you guys was something that I gathered from Unleashing Your Potential this year, so a few weeks ago when I attended. And I think that this is an important thing for state leaders to hear for not only new professionals, but new members or potential members in general. And it's this concept of hot buttons. So with hot buttons, we see that there are about 3 reasons why people attend association meetings. They're either there to learn something new, they're there to help, whether that's helping people, helping the professional organization, or helping the profession, or they're there to meet people, meet association leaders, just make some new friends, or even meet some colleagues that they can talk to in their area. So with the concept of hot buttons, the first step is to figure out what somebody's hot button is. So if you see somebody attending your meeting and it's their first time attending your meeting and you haven't seen them there before, approach them, thank them for coming, and then ask them why they're there. So hopefully when you ask them why they're there, they're going to tell you what their hot button is, rather than you assuming what their hot button is. So you might think that somebody's there because they want to help, or they want to be involved, but maybe they're there just because you have a CE on lasers that day and they want to learn about lasers. So if you ask them why they came, and they'll most likely tell you, I came because I want to learn about lasers, or I came because I want to learn more about dental hygiene legislation and I want to meet the people that are involved with that. And so once you find out what their hot button is, you can place them more accurately in a role that would be better for them. So you can find that person they want to meet, that person who knows dental hygiene legislation that they want to meet, or you can get them involved in an activity that has to deal with dental hygiene legislation or whatever it may be, so that they're feeling like what they came for, they're getting out of that meeting. And maybe they'll come back to more meetings because they can see the benefit for being at these meetings. And then eventually, if we keep having them come back, keep making them more comfortable, encouraging them to join the conversation, then they might take on some of those leadership roles that we are constantly searching to fill in our component and state level boards or executive boards. So that was the advice that I found as a new professional through my experiences. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to AJ.
Hey, everybody. I'm really honored to be a part of this panel as well. And I'm going to hopefully give you some inspiration on ways to bridge the gap between the new professional and the rest of your association. So a little bit more about me, my dental hygiene journey, and my experiences with ADHA so far. And by the way, I'm the blue hair on the left there, but that is not my everyday look. So a little bit about my journey. I really knew nothing about dental hygiene before applying to school, personally or professionally. So before this, I was working in dental insurance accounting, so that's really all I knew. Late one night, I decided to apply to dental hygiene school. I knew I had wanted to go back to get my bachelor's, and dental hygiene kind of piqued my interest. And 3 weeks before the semester started, I was able to fill a vacancy in the program, and had 3 weeks to get my loans together and quit my job and start my new life. So that's how I started. Once I got into school, I kind of just dove headfirst into everything. I'd been waiting a really long time to go back to school, so I joined SADA. I joined really everything I could, and being part of SADA is really where I realized I wanted to see the top level of the association. And so I saved up my dollars and flew to Nashville for the CLL and volunteered to be a page at the House of Delegates. I had no idea what that was or what I would be doing, but I wanted to take advantage of every opportunity. So I just remember being really energized and pumped about my new profession, and definitely knew I wanted to pursue it more and go back to more CLLs and really take part in everything. Most recently, I attended the Pittsburgh conference this summer, and then I graduated this past August, so I am the newbie. And then currently I'm serving as the membership director for the Oregon Dental Hygiene Association. It was something that one of my professors said, hey, I think this would be a good fit for you. Maybe take a look at it. And my initial reaction was, heck no, that's outside my comfort zone. I can't do it, but I started to think about it a little bit and decided to go for it. And I'm really, you know, it's just getting going, but I'm really happy I did. You know, I want to try to bring some of my perspective as a new professional to hopefully energize membership and working with a great group. So, and then part of this new professional group as well. So that's kind of my journey so far. I wanted to start by talking about students, and I know our topic is really about engaging new professionals, but I think in order to talk about that comprehensively and get a full picture, we have to kind of step backward and take a look at students. Something I think is important to remember is that all professional members were once students, of course, but not all students turn into professional members. So particularly with your states, if your conversion rate from new graduates to professional members, if that's really low for you, obviously it's a really big opportunity to look at why and kind of start to address that. I think one of the first things that we can do is look at the state and local levels and see how we're reaching out to students and new professionals. So some questions I would have for you is, are students and new professionals attending your local component meetings, and why or why not? And if they're not attending component meetings, it's just my feeling that they're less likely to probably attend a state meeting that costs money. So maybe even devoting one component meeting a year to student and new professional outreach would be something that you could do. Particularly at the state level, how can we make students feel like more valued members? I think we tend to hit a little bit of a snag when incorporating students because they're the low-paying members, right? So they have low registration fees. They're not the group that's bringing in the dollars. But there's still ways that we can spice up their track and add value to them being there. And if you don't have a student track, I would encourage you to have a student track, first of all. But if you do, there's little changes you can make. So for example, this year in Oregon, Oral-B sponsored toothbrushes at the conference for all the students, the electric Oral-B. And at least around Oregon, Oral-B visits all the schools anyway, so it's just kind of making a shift to, hey, if they're going to get one anyway, let's have it at the conference. And I heard a lot of students say, wow, I didn't expect to get anything because, you know, the school paid for me. And they were just like, wow, I got recognized. You know, I know it's not all about the freebies, but it was just one little thing that kind of spiced up their track. So, and then another thing you could do is bring in students and new professionals to brainstorm the hot topics that are going to really speak to the students and new professionals. So not using the same, you know, same tired thing year after year, but kind of redoing it and finding out what's motivating the students. The last point I wanted to make here is just at the bottom line, we have to realize that it's an investment to speak to students, but also thinking about a return on investment. So yeah, we may have to put money towards them when they're not giving money to us, but in a year or two, those are going to be the people that either pay for a membership or not. So next, I wanted to talk a little bit about actually engaging new professionals. And as a brand new professional myself, I can attest to the fact that it feels a little bit like being out on a deserted island right now. So coworkers are already in their routine. My dentist expects me to know some things that I haven't had a lot of practice in. I'm trying to stay on time, not injure my patients, make everybody happy, right? But that being said, so thinking about who's reaching out to new professionals, whether it's at the component level or the state level, are there people that are taking responsibility or taking initiative to reach out to the new professionals, just welcoming them, saying thanks for coming, you know, is there any resources that I can hook you up with? Jessica talked about that a little bit, about finding out why they're there and if there's anything you can do for them. That's free and that's really easy to do. Next, what language are new professionals speaking? So new professionals are definitely a new breed of hygienists, I think, that have different focuses than other generations of dental hygienists. I think we have to acknowledge that to be able to work with it. So for example, are they product driven? Are they motivated by networking? What can we do to kind of hit the nail on the head for them? Personal example for me, I love products. I like you know, learning about new products. I can often be found at Walgreens or Target or Fred Meyer, just kind of scoping the oral hygiene aisle, reading ingredient labels, trying new things, talking to whoever's stocking the shelves and whatnot. There's definitely a couple companies that I should probably be paid by because I'm their biggest advocate. But yeah, that's part of like my language, what's motivating me. This is another good area. You can bring in a small panel of new professionals just to ensure you're speaking about the right things. Lastly here, I think it's really important to think about, are only the leaders being mentored? So I've been to, a few conferences at the state level now and a couple of conferences at the national level and various meetings throughout the last couple of years. And I do hear the leadership message being talked about an awful lot. And I think that's great because I probably wouldn't have taken advantage of so many opportunities and stepped outside my comfort zone had I not heard that message. But on the flip side, just looking at my own classmates, a lot of people don't want to be leaders, and that's okay too. You have to have the crazy guy that wants to be the leader and has weird ideas, but you also have to have the rest of the group. There's no leader without the rest of the group. So just kind of switching up your message a little bit and making sure everybody feels like they have a place. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about promoting inclusivity and kind of the elephant in the room for some groups, maybe not here because we're all here to talk about it, but is removing the dividing line. And by dividing line, I mean, new professionals on one side of the aisle and hygienists that have been practicing for a little while on the other side. And this ties in really big to the language we're using. And this is a topic I'm really passionate about, and hopefully I can speak on it a little more someday. So is the language that we're using divisive or inclusive or negative or positive? And I'm going to give a personal example here. I was recently at a conference and went to listen to a speaker. I won't name any names, but it was a topic that I was so interested to learn about. I knew this person would have great things to say. And at some point in the talk, she kind of visually, she looked around and singled out, I guess, who she thought looked younger or had just graduated, whatnot. And for whatever reason, referred to us as baby hygienists. And her topic was awesome, but the only thing I left thinking about was being called a baby hygienist. And it didn't make me feel empowered, and it didn't make me feel like, yes, I'm a baby hygienist, I'm ready to take on whatever, So just a personal example that words can be pretty powerful. And on the other side of the aisle, I want to talk to new professionals at some point too. I'm just going to say it, there's the term, quote unquote, old hygienist, and that is another term that absolutely needs to be banished from our profession. So just thinking about how we're talking about each other is really important. Building on strengths of various groups. So, for example, I'm new, I'm really slow, I'm sure I frustrate my coworkers, I'm just trying to stay on time desperately. And at the same time, I've just finished 2 years of school. I've been taught all the latest stuff. I've been neck deep in research for the past 2 years. So I do have stuff to bring to the table, along with the rest of, the new professional group. On the flip side, there's hygienists that have been practicing longer than me, and they have tons of real life experience, and they have a lot to bring to the table as well. So just how can we all sit at a table, kind of cross the bridge and build on the strengths that we all have. And lastly, who can you connect with personally? So thinking about having an impact with just one person, and going back to it not just being the leader. So don't just connect with everyone that's in your leadership bubble, but step outside of that and, find someone at a conference or a meeting that is quiet or that is not standing up for leadership and try to build a relationship with them, or just reach out and say hi. I think that can go a really long way. And finally, just some really quick points on building community. So thinking about how we're interacting with each other, this kind of ties into language and everything else, but just slowing down, thinking about feelings that are motivating people. It's kind of like in dentistry. If we present treatment and we get to the bottom of, how that person is feeling emotionally, we can probably present them with treatment that they'll go with. But if we don't do that, you know, if we just say, hey, you need 5 veneers or something, they're not going to buy it, right? But it goes to like the conversion rate of students to new professionals. It is a lot of money for a new professional, but if something is valued enough and it's important enough, money doesn't really matter. So it's something to think about. Focusing on relationships, I think relationships is what's really going to build our association. Having kindness and respect for each other. We all have different values, different approaches to treatment and patient care and just life in general, but showing kindness and respect is really important. And lastly, having fun. Groups that play together stay together. So, you know, we go through the day-to-day, we have to grow our association, we have to do this, we have to do that, but just having fun as a group and as an association, I think is really important. So that's it for me. I'm going to pass it back over to Kelsey.
All right, thank you. So now we have had a couple of questions come through, so I'm going to read those out and the panelists will field them. So if you guys just want to jump in when you have something to say about it, then just unmute yourself. So first, from Linda Hoffman, she asked, do you have a student advisory position on the board? I know that Jean does, but what is that student's duties? Does he or she interact with other schools, and how do they do that? So, Jean, I don't know if you want to talk about New York, and Jessica and AJ, you can jump in with your experiences on that as well.
Okay. I know in New York we're trying to engage more student members. I am personally, speaking from personal experience, I am still very active with, although I've graduated, I'm very active with the school that I graduated from. I mentor a lot of students that go to school there, and as in turn, they've been very involved with the ADHA. They went to CLL last year. In fact, we had one of the largest student turnouts at CLL that our school has ever had. And then I know the Dental Hygiene Association of the State of New York, they are also working on ways to engage students as well. One thing that they've also done, which I did not mention during my presentation, the past 2 years that I've been in attendance, they've done a scavenger hunt. And what that scavenger hunt enabled students, they went around and they met basically, you know, leaders from all across the state and had to ask them a couple of questions. And then there was first, second, and third place prizes, and the first place winner actually won a membership with the ADHA for a year. So I think that's an incredible thing that we're doing as well. I don't know if that answers the question, but as far as me speaking from personal experience, that is what I have been doing as far as reaching out to students.
This is Jessica. I'll go ahead and jump in and give a little bit on my experience with this topic as well. I know in Virginia, before I left there, we were doing a lot of different things. I don't know that we necessarily had a person that was devoted to students, just students, but we had a lot of initiatives to increase membership, and the focus towards the end of my time in Virginia, so I'm sure they're still working on it now, was to kind of focus some of those new membership efforts on students, start mentoring programs. We did an initiative where we bought Starbucks gift cards around exam time, around boards time, and we sent like a good luck on your boards kind of, you know, care package to all the students that would be graduating soon, in hopes that they see that their association supports them, and in hopes that they would transition their membership from there. So I know Virginia was definitely working on a lot of mentoring programs at component levels. We were working on it, state levels, we were working on it. I just don't think that there was a set position given for somebody to focus on just students.
Yeah, this is AJ. Same pretty much for Oregon. I'm brand new to the executive board, but there isn't a position specifically, like a student advisory position. I'm hoping I can be that person a little bit. But we do have a student track for the students that go to the conferences. And there is a focus on membership. I just haven't seen enough yet to know if there's a specific focus there. But yeah, that's kind of what I've seen so far. It would be a great thing though.
Great, and then you guys kind of already talked about this, but Linda also wanted to know if the state meetings have any sort of student track and if there's any sort of student competition. And I would also think it would be good for you guys to talk about if there's a new professional track or, you know, I know on the new professional advisory group we've talked about for CLL the difference between what students need at an annual session and what new professionals who maybe don't need CE yet, different ways to engage them. So if you guys want to respond to that.
Okay, this is Jessica. So I'll talk about Virginia and Iowa for this one. So in Virginia, I don't think that we really had a student track for our state meeting or anything like that, but I know here in Iowa, they do the table clinics at the state meeting to encourage the students to go. I think it's almost a requirement for most of the community colleges around here that their students do a table clinic at the state meeting in the spring to kind of get them involved. I do know in Virginia, because I was a part of this advisory group while I lived there, we did have a lot of talks about engaging new professionals and how to gear things towards new professionals as part of our membership initiatives. So they're definitely going that track in Virginia to have some kind of new professional track as well, because, you know, a lot of the needs of a student is going to be different than the needs of a new professional. The student is wanting help on preparing for boards and things like that, whereas your new professional wants help on how do I stay in a 45-minute to hour-long appointment. You know, how do I deal with insurance codes, or how do I get the people in my office to like me, or, you know, things like that. So they have very different needs, and I do think having a track for students and new professionals separately is almost, you know, key for national level and state level, and even component if you do component meetings.
Yeah, I agree with Jessica. I think it's really important to have. In Oregon, we do have a student track at the conference. And actually recently, I think it started last year, based on some feedback, they separated the junior students and the senior students so that the seniors would have something new, you know, when they went the second year. And that was amazing. So they didn't have to hear the same thing twice. They're also facing really different things than a junior student. Jessica touched on boards and stuff like that. So just an idea for other states, if you are doing a student track or if you're wanting to create one, I would definitely suggest separating the classes, having some resume building or, you know, board preparation, stuff like that, versus junior students, maybe like career panels and stuff they haven't really seen yet. So we do that in Oregon, and we don't have a new professional track. I think one of the things I think that might hit a snag there is just money. I know it already costs money to bring in, you know, various speakers, to have various CE courses that people can attend, so everybody doesn't have to attend the same thing. And bringing in a whole nother track might get a little pricey, but I do love the idea. So that's my experience on that.
And this is Jean. I actually she's on the call tonight, Michelle Ray. She's a past president of DASNY. We had actually spoken. Currently, we do not have a student track or a new professional track, but we have talked about this. This is something that we have both thought of and something that we would love to initiate. So it possibly is in the works, because while students are invited and welcomed at the state convention, we don't have a track specifically for them or for new professionals as well. So this is something that Michelle Race and I have talked about, and we'll possibly be putting this into works in the near future.
I did have one more quick comment on the student track. The schools in Oregon seem to be really on the same page. We have 4 schools. I should know that number, 4 or 5 schools. But anyway, everybody's really on the same page, and I think that helps a lot. And students are required to attend at least one day of our conference, so that and it's on Saturday, but they can attend the whole thing. But that really gives them a glimpse of the state level. So that's something that we do have here in Oregon.
Great, thanks. Jennifer Martinson asked, so one of you mentioned that the students feel the membership dues are too high. I hear that from hygienists who are out of school and have a job too. What do you say, or what do you do or say to convince them it's worth the investment? People seem to want tangible things. Telling hygienists that they are helping preserve and protect their profession doesn't seem to have a significant impact. So yeah, like if for the new professionals, if you are talking, especially to your peers, what do you do to tell them that membership is worth it, and why did you transition your membership?
All right, this is Jean, and that was actually in my part of the presentation. There was this picture that was sent out, and that's a really good question. And I hope I answered this to the best of my ability. But there was a picture that was sent out basically about breaking down the cost of membership and what you get from it, and on top of just protecting our profession, there was the car insurance discounts and the numerous different things that ADHA is doing. And then it took the cost of the membership and broke it down per day, and I think it was like 65 cents. As humans, I think if we present people with this cost of membership, it's one cost, people look at that cost and think, oh my gosh, that's expensive. I have bills to pay, food to put on my table, I have other things that are a priority. But if you break it down, I think it was 65 cents a day. That is less than what most people spend on a Starbucks a day or Tim Hortons if you're from the Northeast. So there's things, I think if you break it down like that and show them everything that they're getting, not just that we're working to protect our profession. I think if you kind of break the cost down, I think that might make things easier. And unfortunately, not everybody's going to want to be on board, but I think that might make things easier. And I hope that answers your question.
This is Jessica, kind of bouncing off of what Jean just said. I hear this all the time too, with not just new professionals, but hygienists and offices that I've worked at. My favorite that I heard was somebody telling me one time that I pay all this money and I don't even get a t-shirt. And I had to shake my head at that, because it's just people just want something tangible and they want it in their hands. But you have to, kind of go back to that hot button thing. What motivates them, and try to learn more about them, and then find what part of ADHA fits into that hot button. What is it that they want? Find out what they want. Don't assume what they want. And then show them how ADHA gives them that. And then on top of that, kind of going more by what Jean was saying, I know in Virginia, we took exactly what she's talking about there, where we showed how much it cost a day. But we streamlined it to what's happening in Virginia, what VDHA had done over the past decade in Virginia. And we made a one-page fact sheet that was easy for us to share with students or people that attended our meetings. We handed them out at component meetings, at state meetings, and things like that. And we highlighted legislative advances in our state alone, when we got local anesthesia and how VDHA played a role in that, and this, and that. So we showed Virginia specifically for our local people that we wanted to get more involved. And I think showing them on a local level sometimes helps too, because ADHA is this huge national thing, and when we look at hygiene, unfortunately, we're not national. We don't do the same things in Virginia that we do in California or New York or Oregon or Iowa. I'm still trying to learn Iowa right now. So I think it's easier if you kind of break it down to that more local area for them and show them what their membership does for them there before you broaden it out to that national level.
Yeah, hey, this is AJ. Yeah, this is a hard one, and I do think about this pretty much every day, because it comes up on like Facebook forums and stuff like that. And, especially for new professionals, this is a valid concern, and I know ADHA battles this as well. I know they hear it a lot. New professionals are, yeah, we're making a paycheck now, but we're trying to pinch pennies for that huge loan payment we know is coming up. So it's definitely a valid question and something I think we need to deal with. And Jessica had a really good point about breaking it down to the local level. Like in Oregon, You know, we have a lot of people that have advocated for what is now a very progressive dental, you know, we're very progressive here in terms of dental hygiene. And somebody on Facebook, I know this doesn't work for everyone, but somebody on Facebook did say the other day, you know, you're paying for, part of your membership is paying for the people that want to get out and fight. And it's okay if you don't have to be that person, but there's people that want to do that job, and that stuff costs money. And the person was like, you know, I never thought about it like that. So, you know, just finding things to tell people that they may not know about.
All right, thanks. So we haven't had any more questions come in. So if you do have one, we have a couple more minutes. So feel free to put those in the chat or I think we just had one.
Yeah, I see one there.
To the Q&A, just 1 second. So Renee Johnson says, do you have your House of Delegates on the same weekend as your CE track program? What's a sample of the schedule that works well in your state? Please share the fact sheet that was distributed in Virginia. So some of that we can send out via email after, but do you guys want to talk about the House of Delegates and the CE track program?
Yeah, I'll talk about that first. Oregon actually just switched this year away from House of Delegates to General Assembly, but yes, it is all in the same weekend as the CE tracks. I think that's what you're talking about. We have Friday CE, and then we have Saturday CE, which is more of like the big day where there's the main speaker, if you will, and the main event. Oh, and then we have Sunday, which is like more business meeting and kind of closing things up. So yeah, it's all in the same weekend, and it works pretty well.
So this is Jessica. I can't really speak for Iowa yet because I'm not 100% sure what we do here. But in Virginia, I know that the House of Delegates was one weekend in the fall, and that also included some professional development type workshop usually that weekend, but not really any CE tracks. And then in the spring, they do their scientific session, which is their annual session where they have, you know, an entire weekend of just CEs and not as many business meetings at that one. And then as for the fact sheet, I think we both wrote back to you on that, but I will definitely get that to Kelsey so she can disseminate that to you guys and you can kind of use it as a template and mold it to your state.
And this is Jean. As far as New York goes, the House of Delegates and the CEs are kind of combined on the same weekend. So you have the House of Delegates usually on Friday, and then the CE courses begin that day as well. And then Saturday is just basically strictly CEs. There's the President's Dinner and some different things that go on. And then Sunday they have their final House of Delegates meetings, and that's also where the election of the new and installation of the new officers go on as well.
Great, and so for the final question, I would like to just ask all of you, what would your suggestions for states and components to reach out to new professionals who didn't transition? So maybe they've been out for a year. What would be a great way to recruit them, to contact them? Just any advice you have for that?
I think that's kind of a tough one, but I think, again, I'm going back to those hot buttons of trying to figure out what it is that would motivate them. So trying to get to know that new professional, find out what it is that they would be looking for in membership, and then showing them how your local, state, or national level is meeting that need. I know in Virginia we tried to do a lot of, free meetings, so we didn't always attach a CE to it, so that hopefully the free aspect of that could get some non-members or potential members to come to these meetings so we could get to know them more and hopefully hit on those hot buttons to get them to keep coming back.
This is Jean. Another thing I suggest, just kind of a thought that came to mind, is maybe generating some kind of a list and getting the names of students who graduate before they become professional members, because, or not professional members, but registered dental hygienists, because once you get out into the real world, it's very tough, and that lack of connect from the school and from the professional organization is very real. So maybe if there's any way to kind of jump the gun and get in contact with those students right before they graduate and generate lists. That way you have names and contact information of people that you can contact after they graduate, because after they graduate, it's probably harder to reach out to them. So kind of strike while the iron's hot kind of mentality. So that's just something else that I think, I don't know if that would be effective, but just an idea.
Hey everyone, this is Jennifer Hill. Just to add to what Kelsey asked you all to kind of comment on, just something that we work on is obviously recruitment. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, and I agree with what you were just saying, that after they graduate it can be difficult. So where, if you had recently graduated and didn't transition and didn't stay a part of ADHA, do you think that a lot of new professionals would go first to social media pages like a state's Facebook page group and start there? Or we're trying to kind of figure out how we can help states not just reach out to them, but what are the main, would they find interest if they just received an email, or do you think they're more proactive in going to social media? Just trying to give our states some ideas on how to reach out more.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say real quick, I would say definitely social media. I think people utilize social media more than they utilize email these days. And there's, I mean, even, just as a prime example, there's a Facebook group page called Dental Hygienist Talk. And I see so many of my previous classmates utilizing this Facebook group because they're always asking questions, and kind of a great meeting place for, hygienists from all across the country with different levels of experience. So I would definitely figure like where to target new professionals. I think that you would be more successful utilizing social media because it is so easy to access and it's so readily usable.
Great, thanks guys.
All right, well, I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. If you do have any other questions, feel free to email me at kelseyti@adha.net, and I'll either answer them myself or I can connect you with someone from the New Professional Advisory Group. So thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.